Hi, I'm Neil,
I'm Dave.
and we're here to answer your most frequently asked cannabis questions.
We'll be doing this through a series of quick, digestible Q&As with some of the most important characters in the cannabis industry and the broader culture at large. Today, we're spending 420 seconds with Danny Minogue. Danny once had a long career in various sales and marketing roles with a little-known pharmaceutical company called AstraZeneca. After a routine company restructure, Danny decided to take his skills, transition to greener pastures, and follow his passion into the newly legalised medical cannabis market. He started with Althea Group Holdings in 2018 and held a number of sales roles, including working with prescribers and helping to educate doctors to establish medical cannabis advocates within the medical community. More recently, he's taken up a role heading up business development at Cann Group, who are an Australian GMP cultivator and manufacturer. Cann Group currently manufacture GMP medical cannabis for the local and international markets. Danny is passionate about breaking down stigma associated with cannabis and celebrates the local cannabis industry, bringing GMP medicines to patients. Danny, thanks for your time.
Oh, lads, how are we?
Very well, thanks.
Mate.
So, mate, for better or worse, Australia is obviously very regulated. How does that translate to the quality of product a consumer can expect from medicinal cannabis in Australia versus the rest of the world?
Good question, Dave. So all of the Australian manufacturers need to release product to a pharmaceutical standard that would be referred to as GMP, or good manufacturing practices. So it's a set of principles that defines the manufacture of all pharmaceuticals essentially around the world. So it's a high standard. It's something that gives doctors and patients a high level of reassurance. What's a bit unusual with medicinal cannabis is the TGA have allowed non-GMP products to be imported from overseas into the country. Now, early on, mate, that was done to allow for supply. The local industry wasn't at a point where they could support the volumes needed for patients. So I think there was a period where it was done through necessity, but it's basically meant that a lower standard or a lower quality of medicinal cannabis product is allowed into the Australian marketplace.
Interesting. So in terms of from a patient perspective, Danny, and a product perspective, what can patients expect with GMP quality?
So I think the comparison there, Neil, is that it's a pharmaceutical standard. So they can be assured that there is some consistency from batches, there is quality assurance, there is training through the personnel involved in the manufacture, and that's replicated from facility to facility. So I think patients that are getting GMP quality medicine have a high level of comfort, a high level of security, and they know that they are getting a very regulated, high quality product. I think without those standards in place means some quality aspects have the potential to slip. The products that are coming in that are non-GMP still need to comply to some standards. And locally, they've been referred to as like TGO 93, TGO 100 standards. So there's testing on pesticides and heavy metals and a whole range of other tests that still need to be done, but it isn't quite to the same standards and level that GMP works to.
Right. So with the recent announcement from the TGA, it seems apparent that come 2022, all products will be GMP, which is great from a patient's perspective to know they're getting that high quality product. With that said, there still is pricing all over the place for one reason or another. And I guess the question is, should patients think that pricing is indicative of quality, or is there other factors at play?
Oh, look, I think it's a fair statement to say to work to GMP standards is a more expensive proposition. So I don't think there's any doubt there that that's not the cheapest way to do things. But as we spoke about earlier, the need for reliability, the need for consistency, and for patient confidence is really high. I think as the Australian market's starting to really get some momentum. So there are a number of manufacturers operating in the Australian market and are starting to do so at significant scale. So whilst some companies may find challenges and their products are costing them more, I think the fact that in particular, the local market has got plenty of capacity to supply demand should mean that patients are still receiving the products at a similar price And hopefully with the increased competition, that price continues to get pushed down.
Interesting. And so from a patient's perspective, again, should they, when they're talking to their doctors about products, should they be considering any of these items in their discussions at all?
Look, probably today it's not a bad idea, Neil. You know, I think once the TGA bring this into effect, once this becomes mandated, that problem goes out the window for both prescribers and patients. So I think at the moment there is a market where there are differing standards of products available that may or may not be differentiated by price. Some of them are just as expensive as GMP, others of them are a bit cheaper, and perhaps prescribers and patients are being attracted to them because they are a cheaper entry point. So I think patients should be aware that there are differences between the products. And I think it's reasonable for them to be saying that they would like a product that's manufactured in a pharmaceutical way.
No, agree. So I guess what's quite exciting is obviously the quality standards are there and getting better. Prices as the market grow are coming down, rivaling, if not beating, street prices to a degree now, which is great. And I think there's some excitement around the corner. Those two factors, and of course, locally grown is one we fully support. So those three factors aside, is there anything else patients should be considering when it comes to flower choice when talking to their doctor?
I think there is. I think a lot of doctors will take a holistic approach to patients' treatment. So whilst flower definitely has a role to play, I think there can be a place for the oils to complement patients' flower. So I think it's really important that patients share their experience. What we know about cannabis is it needs to be individualized. So what works for one person may not work for the other. So flower, we certainly know that has the potential to cause some sedative-like effects. So if patients are finding that's problematic for them during the day, then I think they should share that with their doctor. If they're liking flower as a way of taking their medicine, there are different options that may, not cause that sedation. There's different flowers that are available that might be better suited to daytime use or nighttime use. So I think at the end of the day, there's no one right approach for everyone. So people need to accept that. And I think they explore that with their doctors, that if they're finding they're sleeping great, but daytime's a problem, let's say share those symptoms back with your doctor. If they're finding the other way around, again, therapies can be tailored, and some of the changes recently with the TGA allow for those tweaks and those adaptions in a much easier, cheaper and quicker fashion than what was 12 months ago, and doctors had to do more paperwork, and let's be honest, it was a pain in the ass for everyone. That's now been made simpler. So I think, patients are perhaps being put, at the forefront of therapy, which is important.
Danny, that's some really insightful information. Thanks for your time.